Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long time and I bet you thought we forgot about this series, but we have not. We are back for round number 5 of the ISR AIC Season 4 Round 5 Championship here at Assen. It's been a while, it's going to take a little while to get the vocal cords up and running again. It is Assen, obviously not operating a DRS system yet, looking to implement one for Assen in the future races of DTM, so maybe we can return here once that's been implemented. But for today, the guys will not be racing with DRS, meaning that downforce is going to be the dominant king of this race on this one-stop strategy projected race. Joining me once again is Zach Swader. It's been a long time, Zach. We're back, but last time out it was Evan Imre who took the win for Force Fizzy for King and Country with Scotland, and he'll be looking to maintain that if he wants to go head-to-head with Kevin Jacobs.
Yes, and I can tell you one thing, he's got a lot of work to cut out because it has been a while, so a lot of these guys are going to be rusty just like us, so we're going to see how they can handle old school racing, as you said, where is no DRS, so this is pure old school 2000, like pre-2011, so it's going to be relied on driver skill, but the man himself, Kevin Jacobs, who's already got 2 wins this season, he's leading our points championship, and he's also leading this pack in front of Danny Diaz. We've talked about him finally. You know, he's made some moves to ART. They've been struggling. They're the only people to score points in our team standings, but he's starting second, so this could be good. But underneath him is the Northern Lights Racing boys of Craig Evans and James Underhill, with Evan Imre rounding out the top 5.
Gareth Lennon will pick it up in 6th place, looking to strengthen Iron Brew's position as we move on to the second page. Campagnari will start just outside of the top 10, free tyre choice for him. Zach Swader will line up in 12th with Charles McBee soon behind. Nut Martinson will swap out for the Americans in an all-American quadruple lineup, with Team EQU taking 17th and 18th on the grid. Josh Martin, poor performance for him, almost a second off the pace, and Douglas Anderson quite evidently not having the qualifying he wanted. Outstandingly though, he's not the one on the back of the grid, so some people had even further problems than him. We'll soon see who that is, but I have a strong suspicion that it's going to be some guys that have had their laps ruined, obviously crashing, and that's been Damien Haskins and Colin McAllister, both over 2 seconds off the pace, so you can imagine. This track is quite short, it's about 1:16 is the lap time we saw earlier on, so it's very easy to get caught in that traffic, Zach. So as we get ready to go racing for the first time in 8 months, adrenaline's high, these guys will be ready to go. Who's going to get the best start? Lights down away we go. It actually looks like Danny Diaz got the better start out of him and Kevin Jacobs, so down to turn 1 we go. Who's leading the pack as Kevin got it back under control? It looks like Danny on the inside, but the racing line favours the outside. Now Danny starts to put a bit of a fight back, but no, the racing line favours the outside, which means Danny Diaz is going to be under pressure and actually lose second place off the start to Craig Evans, and he'll have to try and figure that out. But good start for Evan Imre. He said he needed to do some work. He's got past one of the Northern Lights Racing boys already.
Yeah, so he is right behind, of course, Danny Diaz, and, you know, going through the field right now, we see Toby Byrne going through the rest of the field. That's Zach Swader, and he's lost the front wing, Toby. I think that was Zach Swader that actually lost the front wing, so
yeah, I think Gareth lost the rear wing as well. No rear wing for Lennon.
There's the Iron Brew. Yep, so there's Gareth Lennon, the Iron Brew machine, holding up Toby Byrne. He'll be looking, what is that car? He needs to be off to the side, DNF, so he's going to be frustrated with the Iron Brew car of Gareth Lennon as we're taking a look now on board with Toby. But yeah, so I wonder if those two, of Zach Swader and Gareth Lennon, had a bit of a collision with each other. We'll have to wait for the replay to go on that. But so far now, that seems to be the only incident. As we take a look at Danny Diaz, Evan Imre, Craig McLeod Evans, our top 3, right behind Kevin Jacobs, who's been dominating this season. Toby already with 2 wins. He's looking to be the man to beat.
The best performance I've seen from someone who almost lost his seat. What a way to strike back for the Northern Lights Racing boys so far, and you can see how much of a bottleneck Lennon caused there coming into the pits. I'm going to wonder if they're not just going to retire that car, to be honest, and Swader comes into the pits as well. Their races are pretty much done, so we'll focus on the action ahead. As you can see, Kevin Jacobs still leads from McLeod Evans from, it looks like Danny Diaz still holding on to third, under severe pressure though from Evan Imre as we ride on board with the Scotsman. The Scotsman having a rough time in the Daytona 24 hours on iRacing. He'll be looking to transform some of that unlucky stuff, get it out the way, get it out his head and focus on the task at hand. So far keeping up with Kevin Jacobs, really managing to stick by his lines. Craig's not really had the best of results so far this season, so he'll be looking to see if he can kind of pounce on any little mistake that Kevin Jacobs made. But the reason Kevin's been doing so well, Zach, is that he just hasn't made any mistakes.
Yeah, but you can tell Craig is sticking on to him like glue. He's like, that's like what you see in Midnight Toge racing. You want to follow your opponent's lines, and that is exactly what Craig Evans is doing, following any little detail, watching that car in front of him, and just using the slipstream to gain a little bit of ground on Kevin Jacobs. But yeah, just using to see what his car is doing. He's going to take a bit of an more inside side. This was Toby Byrne that we're looking. I believe that's Kevin Jacobs' teammate that's ahead of him. So apologies on that. But yeah, so going through now, we take a look. We talked about Iron Brew. They're leading their team standings with Gareth Lennon possibly DNFing and Colin McAllister way in the back, not maybe scoring any points unless something crazy happens. We could have a shakeup in the team standings as we're looking at James Underhill going to make a move right there into 4th place, but he's going to be side by side with one of the Force Fishing Machines. I believe that's Evan Emery himself that we were talking about. Yep, so they're side by side. Ooh, yeah, good drag racing from these boys. They have got 8 months worth of rust to let go of, and they are really Colin Spencer is saying, I'm going to join in here, going to make it a 3-fight battle. So crazy stuff already. These guys have yet to see this track as well. You don't see many open wheel cars go around Austin unless it's a show. And bit of contact from Colin Spencer right there against James Underhill, but nothing doing so far. These guys blinding each other, knowing that you're open wheel racing as well. So any contact, as we saw earlier, it can do a lot of damage. But so looking back here, Craig Evans, see what the gap is right now to him and Kevin. Actually, we're looking at Danny Diaz. So still there, still sticking with him. So hopefully Craig can actually be able to, like you said, take back what happened at the Daytona 24-hour race and put something against Kevin Jacobs.
Yeah, so with Assen, let's talk about Assen a little bit. Obviously, let's talk about Assen a little bit after this. So this is the replay of what happened at the start then. Let's find out how Sueda lost that front wing. And, wow. Just did not completely missed his braking point or something. Just could not stop for the life of him. Poor timing, really, because Lennon was an innocent party. Not much Lennon could have really done. As you can see from the rear view of Lennon now coming down into turn 1, you're just going to see WSR come rocking up and bang. There goes the rear wing, and there goes, look how far that rear wing goes flying out in the gravel trap out there. It's really unlucky for Lennon. He was in a really good position to help Iron Brew in turn the standings, and here's a slow motion shot. You can just see how much speed and distance this rear wing picked up. It just kept going on and on and on, just to give you an idea of the force of the impact that we saw when the guys made contact. But yeah, I don't know. For me, that's going to be a tricky one in terms of penalising, but you can't really say Lennon's at fault for that.
Yeah, I think the stewards are going to have something to say to Slater about that, because he did completely look like he just didn't react quick enough, or he just didn't really care where he was on the braking point, trying to gain positions on both the TBD cars of Toby Byrne. So yeah, but yeah, that rear wing though, looking like the Energizer Bunny, just kept going and going and going, and that's why you got to be careful. And there you go, race incident investigation. So causing a collision. So we're going to see if they will actually penalize Swader, as we're taking a look now at the Scotsman, looking back at Danny Diaz. So, but yeah, you were talking about before we saw the replay, talking about Assen. Of course, I said earlier, these open wheel cars, you don't see open wheel formula cars go around this track unless it's some kind of time trial or some kind of public event, a showcase. But this is a very cool track for open wheel cars. There's a couple of chicanes, one in the middle sector, then one just before the start finish line, and they are some pretty fast sweeping chicanes, I'll tell you that much. So these guys have got to watch out, and these curbs, especially on the chicanes, will eat these cars alive. These cars do not like curves at any track, but these curves, especially in the chicanes, they can get a bit hairy. As we're kind of looking to the rest of the field, Douglas Anderson, Chester Jackson. We've got a three-way battle for 10th position almost here, looking for the last possible point position of Toby Byrne and Chester Jackson. As Chester Jackson is going to go give Toby Byrne a battle here. Chester got some competition. We know how much the experience Toby has in the open wheel formula cars. Of course, he is leading the Nemesis Online Racing Formula One League, showing Chester Jackson, look, I am a master of formula cars. Don't mess with me, kid. As we take a look at his teammate, Christopher Pedersen. A bit quiet Christopher Pedersen here in these open wheel formula cars. He's done well in earlier series, which promoted him to the seat of TBD, but so far hasn't really been showing the performance that he's been known for, Toby Christopher.
Craig McLeod Evans pits then. He's going to try the undercut on Kevin Jacobs. Ooh, almost losing it. Getting really, wow, yikes, yeah, definitely. Coming in at full pelt just shows you how much he wants to get in and try this undercut. But is that a double stack from Northern Lights Racing? That's going to be really tight, and he just gets out. That's a bit of a unfortunate timing from the Northern Lights guys. Really not well organised, as Christopher Pettersson is in the pits as well. So for you guys going for an earlier strategy, as we saw WSR making its way down the pits as well, you can see Colin McAllister's trying to size up Jonathan Carrera here for a move. He's looking down the inside. No, thinks better of it. Thinks he'll maybe wait a little bit longer, see what's going on. So that promotes obviously Danny Diaz up into second and Evan Imre into third, giving those guys a little bit of free air. I was going to mention Danny Diaz had actually dropped Evan Imre. That's probably courtesy to the battle Evan Imre had with James Underhill a little bit earlier on, but he was really starting to put the pressure on Craig Evans. Maybe that was half the reason he decided to get in, and McAllister straight around the outside of Carrera as he gets that corner a little bit wrong, and James Underhill tries to navigate him. I'm not sure what's happened to Jonathan there, but he's got a bit slow, maybe just a bit of a lock-up, got things a bit wrong. But here we go then, our race leader responds. We'll see how effective the undercut is as everyone comes into the pits now. Danny Diaz is going to look to overcut Evans. I think he's going to be quite bold if Evans undercuts Jacobs. I think he was a little bit too far back. I think his battle's mainly going to be with Diaz, and let's see where to go out. But Evan Imre, Zach, staying out for another lap.
You saw Kevin Jacobs almost did the exact same thing as Craig did coming into the pits. I don't know if you saw that, Tony. He was sideways as well. Didn't see the entrance that Danny had. I don't know if he made a mistake. But using Slipstream, speaking of, Craig McLeod Evans is going to take into 6th place after his pit stop here. So, yeah, that double stack from the Northern Lights guys, I don't know if that's going to affect them. It might, because, you know, it could go either way, though. But I think Craig could be ending up not in the battle for the win if that double stacks cost them there. So that's a very unfortunate error from the Northern Lights crew. But yeah, so far Evan Imre, without pitting, he's been one to watch. He was our last time winner out.
Bird's missing a front wing.
Yeah, definitely. So I wonder what happened there.
Very interesting. Oh, that's what happened there. I just caught a glimpse of a Force Fizzy with...
Fizzy. That might have been Fizzy himself, actually, since Evan's leading.
I hope to God that isn't it. It is K Martin showing as a DNF. I was going to say, I hope to God it isn't Evan Imre, because that would have been huge. Not sure what's happened there. Hopefully we'll get a replay. But here is our race leader. Followed swiftly. Callum Spencer really closed the gap to Evan Imre, actually. He's not that far behind. Okay, so Evan Imre, what have you got for us? I was going to say as well, the Northern Lights strategy has not worked at all, because Danny Diaz is actually now ahead. He's managed to successfully overcut, as here comes our race leader quite comfortably, really, isn't it? It's not really a challenge, but here's Evan Imre. It's going to be quite close with Danny Diaz. This is the battle for second, and Evan Imre has gone from third to second. Great effort, and the overcut, Zach, seems like it's the stronger strategy. That clean air, Evan's been able to push, as Danny was able to push and get ahead of Craig. Yeah, it seems the longer you stay out, the better tyres you have. Callum Spencer up to 5th as well. He's overcut James Underhill quite significantly. Overcut looks like it's been the strategy, which is, I don't blame these drivers for pitting earlier, because the overcut's not worked all season. So it's definitely something brand new. But yeah, Craig Evans finds himself in a tough spot. He's got older tyres, and he's stuck behind 2 guys with fresher tyres.
Yeah, so not to mention, I think the timing that the Northern Lights decided to bring in their guys here, but also as well, not to mention that strategy with the overcut that you were talking about, but of course the double stacking, as Toby Burns still has yet to get into the pits. He's still got no front wing, and there we talk about the car that we saw was, of course, Fizzy himself, Nut Mark Jensen. So tough break. Fizzy ain't going to get the maximum points with Evan Imre, you know, as much points as they can here with Evan Imre sitting in second. So, one's good, having a good day. One is DNF'd into the garage. So tough break for Fizzy himself as we're taking a look back at Craig McLeod Evans. Trying to catch up to Danny Diaz, but yeah, that was a very interesting call. I wonder what they were thinking trying to double stack Toby, because, you know, you've got one guy that's trying to fight for a win. He was in second, reeling in Kevin Jacobs. And then you bring him in, and then you bring in his teammate to double stack him. That's like almost like Mercedes messing up that one pit strategy between Hamilton and Rosberg that one time. So I wonder what was going through their heads.
Good move by Colin McAllister up the inside. It's only for P13, but a little bit of pride in this Scottish battle, as the little bit of banter goes to and from Josh Martin to Colin McAllister. So he'll take the banter points on that particular occasion. Byrne finally makes it back into the pit lane. Looks like he's had a bit of a mare. I don't think Byrne's going to be doing anything this race. Yeah, interesting strategy by the Northern Lights Racing. All I can think of is maybe Underhill was in a worse position for tyres, but then at the same time Evans was dropping. I'm not sure. Whatever it was, I think they knew. They thought they had a bigger gap than they actually did, and it's come into a situation where now they find themselves pretty much out of the contention for the win. I mean, he's still there, he still can pick up a podium, but Evan Imre and Danny Diaz do definitely look in better shape, at least at this point in the race. Christopher Pettersson is reeling in the V-Race of Ross McFarlane. V-Race has been an interesting story, actually. It's been mainly the case of Ross McFarlane really found this form. Obviously, he battled for the win in Canada, almost got the win until some superb driving by Evan Imre made the decision on that one. Ross McFarlane obviously is a previous race winner in the IC. He's got the experience, but he's really been carrying V-Racer as of late. Josh Martin having a torrid time getting used to the setups of these cars. But in terms of what I've seen so far, I'm going to wager we might be seeing a title battle this season between Kevin Jacobs and Evan Imre. I would say they're definitely the two favourites at the moment. In terms of Assen as a circuit for the racing it's producing isn't that bad, as we see Juan Navarro is trying to get alongside Charles McBee. Swiftly has the door shut on him though as he looks for the inside. Will he send it up the inside of the quick chicane? It's going to be bold. Is it brilliant? No, he thinks better of it. A bit of a tight angle this corner. Really, really fast. I was doing some laps earlier before we commentated to see what this would really be like, and it is an incredibly fast circuit, but you need free air. To go fast you need free air, and that's probably why the overcut was so effective. Obviously not a lot of four-wheel vehicles, like you say, race here, which means there's not a lot of rubber, so it is very slippery as well. But Evan Imre definitely looking like the stronger person in the Diaz battle right now, starting to pull away. But look at this. Once again, Zach, domination from Kevin Jacobs.
Yeah, he has been on fire this season. Of course, the two guys that we've been talking about are known for their Formula One expertise. Kevin Jacobs does a lot of racing in Nemesis Online Racing League, and of course Evan Imre being a part of AOR and the Fizzy group. They run open wheel cars on iRacing. They do F1 as well, and so you have to think these two guys being in Formula One cars in AIC, these two guys so far have been the top dogs, and Kevin Jacobs is of course on for his third win of the season. And so that is something to behold. I don't even think, you'll have to refresh my memory, Toby, but I don't think one driver has scored more than 3 wins, or any more than 2, actually. You'll have to go back and look through the record books. But even still, 3 wins in one season, especially in this, against these guys, that's nothing to sneeze at as well. Kevin Jacobs has done phenomenal. And as you said, he was almost losing his seat. But, he came back on fire, and he's showing why he needed to stay. And so far, that has worked out wonderfully for him.
Yeah, Kevin dedicated the season, before he got racing for this season, he dedicated this to NORL, and he dedicated it to his uncle as well. What a way to pay back NORL for giving you the second chance to potentially go out and win them their first championship. In terms of winning multiple races, I think the only person who has more wins in a season than Kevin right now is Fizzy, not Martinson, in his absolutely storming performance to win the Season 1 championship in the Siroccos. He had an awesome free race run at the end of the season. So if Kevin can win here today, he will equal that. And then if he can win again when we go to Spa next time out, then I think he's going to be pretty hard to stop. But right now, a nice little battle seems to be brewing between Evan Imre and Danny Diaz for second place. Danny Diaz qualified second, of course, but was then obviously shunted out of the way on the unfavourable line. But he's really starting to reel in Evan Imre in the most recent few laps. So he's looking quite strong. Now, what a fairy tale this would be for ART. We was talking just before we got recording that ART is the last team to score points this season. They've had a lot of, as we see, the race control have decided to hand a qualifying ban for Zach Sweder in Spa. Not the worst track to have a qualifying ban. You can overtake at Spa, so could be worse, could be like a Monaco. But not great either. Obviously, the stewards deemed he was at fault, and we can't really argue with them. It just looked like he made a mistake. Fair enough. He gets punished. He'll move on. I'm sure he'll accept that and get on with a job next time out in Belgium. But in terms of Danny Diaz, first points of the season, they've had a few 11th places. They've been missed almost every time, but what a great way to get your first points with a podium. Of course, he's still got 7-8 laps to do that, so the pressure's not over yet, but it's looking good.
It's looking good for ART. I mean, Danny Diaz, he's shown, of course, I believe it was the next track that we were going to was Spa, that he really showed performance, Danny Diaz. And so that kind of took the eye when he was under threat from EQU before he moved on to ART. That race itself caught the eye of Douglas Anderson, brought him over. And so it took him up until now. for Danny Diaz. He's had a whale of a career so far in AIC. He's finished up at the top a couple of times, behind his teammate, of course, at Canada, and the shot goes to Zach Swader, when Zach was with EQ, bringing those guys up, and then Danny became the head of that with teammates Chester Jackson. Then he's moved from here to ART, and he's had a bit of a shakeup, but so far I think he's finally found his stride. It's took him a little bit, but I think Danny Diaz has been a well performance for ART. But Douglas himself, he's had his ups, he's had his downs, but so far he's running in ninth, so that may actually be a good chunk of change, actually, Toby, speaking of, because Danny Diaz is running for podium on third, and Douglas Anderson is running in ninth. So, they said they have yet to score points. Well, they could get a pretty good amount today if everything stays at it. But one guy here, Valerio Campagnari, he's had a difficult season so far, and he's one of the guys that's known for Formula One leagues. But so far, Toby Valeria, he's had a bit of a rough start for this season.
Yeah, it's been a tricky one. Obviously, it's hard to say when all the spotlight has been on Kevin Jacobs. It's been the Kevin Jacobs show, which has allowed Valeria to do a little bit of support roles in the background, get the points where he needs to keep NORL in the title fight for the constructors. He's done what he's needed to do. Obviously, he's just not up there with Kevin at the moment in terms of form. Obviously, I want to talk, by the way, Callum Spencer has just made the move for fourth, so Craig Evans has been caught and passed by Callum Spencer, another driver who's had quite a quiet season, but quietly getting better, and he's starting to reach the form we saw of him. Now, one driver who has consistently been there every single season has been Callum Spencer. So incredible driving from the Welshman yet again, gets up into fourth. He'll begin trying to hunt down Danny Diaz with just over 6 laps to go, or just under 6 laps to go, or about halfway through the 6th lap. It might be a bit of a tall order, but I'm sure the Welshman will give it everything he's got. In terms of obviously everyone else, it's been an interesting one. Assen seems to be the race of repaying your boss. Kevin repaying NORL for giving him the seat, and obviously Danny Diaz repaying ART by getting them a podium. Now, by the way, I just want to quickly mention that Douglas Anderson, his teammate, if you remember rightly, he qualified in 20th position. He has made 11 places this race, and 5 of them was off the start with an amazing start. We know Douglas Anderson has always been great for his starts, and he made 5 positions off the line into turn 1. And then he's just silently got on with it from there, as we can see. Speaking of Douglas Anderson, looking for a move, trying to set up Pettersson. Got in a bit hot there, had to jam on the brakes. But it looks like all the guys who decided to go for the undercut rather than the overcut, they're starting to lose those rear tyres, and you can see Dougie smells blood.
Yeah, and that was almost an ambitious overtake from the Scotsman on Pettersson, but he thought Wise would manage to back off. But I think if he can get the slipstream here on Pettersson, he should be able to get him maybe into this little chicane. Let's see, he's going to try, but no, he's going to duck. I thought he was going to try for the switchback, but I don't think that line's going to work very well here. But yeah, he is looking for that position, but yeah, that was a very interesting move. But yeah, Douglas Anderson, he's, like I said, he's had his ups, he's had his downs, but looking to get their first points of the season so far, ART, with Danny Diaz running for a podium. I think this could be a very good outing for them, man. I think as these teams with Iron Brews having some problems today, I think the team standings are going to have a major swap around with Gareth Lennon DNFing and Colin McAllister not having a good outing. I'm not exactly sure where he is. Colin McAllister is running in, if I can look through here, he's running in 13th, so he's out of the points completely. So this could be the swap around the team standings very much needed, because they've actually been the consistent ones until today. So with just a few laps remaining, I think Iron Brew's lead in the team standings could be coming to an end here, as Douglas Anderson still trying to attack Christopher Pettersson. He's
struggling to find a way by. He's faster, but Christopher is putting his car in all the right places. Obviously, a lot of experience for Christopher. A two-time champion in NORL as well. So he's a seasoned veteran when it comes to defending, but his tyres are considerably older. It's going to be hard. He covers the inside line, forces Dougie. There's no way you can go around the outside of this corner. So again, great defence from the Swede on much dead tyres. While we've said, obviously, he's not been there in terms of his pace and his consistency. It's not really been there this season, but you can still see, Zach, in times like this, you can see the talent hasn't faded, because he's holding off a car with 2 lap fresher tyres who is a lot faster than him, just because he knows where to put his car when it comes under pressure. as we watch car number 11 with 11 positions gained. We can also see that Ross McFarlane's closing in on Craig Evans a little bit up front as well. So the tyre wear at Assen, Zach, seems to be really, really high, and I wouldn't really expect it personally. I know we say not a lot of rubber is laid down at this track because it is mainly used for MotoGP. So you're really only laying down 2 tyres worth of rubber rather than 4, which means obviously the track's a little bit slippier, meaning you're using more grip just to stay on the road. So the guys who've pitted a bit early, probably, if there was a few more laps, would probably be looking to swap to a 2-stop, because the 1-stop's really not worked out for them. But looks like we'll be following this battle till the end, because Dougie's all over him. But you can see just in front, Ross McFarlane gaining on his compatriot quite significantly. You can also see Campagnari really still putting the pressure on the EQU car before. Now, one thing to note that I just want to quickly note with Douglas Anderson is he's got to be careful, because it wouldn't be... He's got to be careful because Christopher's putting it in the right place. But if you remember back to Adelaide, and I know that's a long time ago, Dougie was comfortably running in the points until he made a mistake and went into the back of Wood, and they both DNF'd. So he wouldn't want to throw away a double points finish by doing the same to Petterson. So whilst I know he wants the 8th place in any race of Wood, he's got to be really careful where he does it, because right now Christopher has the measure. He knows where to put his car. Dougie's got to get creative, but not silly.
Yeah, but unless a mistake like that from Petterson, it looked like Petterson kind of slipped it a little bit. Don't know if he missed a shift or kind of shifted down too early, and the car just didn't like that. But he got a little bit tail happy. So Petterson, of course, you say he's been putting the car in the right places, but you can tell he is feeling the pressure of that ART behind him. And Dougie, he may not be skillful in some areas, but if there's one thing that Dougie can get right, it is the mind game. He will make you think, oh, he's not going to attack you here, but he'll attack you in places where you won't think, which is exactly what happened with him in Adelaide and Joshua Robert Wood. Joshua wasn't thinking he was going to overtake here, which Dougie ended up diding, but I think Dougie kind of made the mistake himself. But if there's one thing, Dougie knows how to get in your opponent's head, and trust me, that is actually the tool that most drivers lack nowadays, is playing the mind games with your opponent, playing cat and mouse, doing a little fake maneuvering here and there, and that really gets under the helmet of your opponent here, because that will actually force into a mistake, which Petterson almost did right here. But Petterson seems to be getting along just fine now. I think he's kind of built into a gap just a little bit. So as you were saying, Toby, these tires on Dougie's car, they might actually be a little bit more slippier now than they probably were, but he's using the slipstream. He's going to try to make the move. You can see the tail happy car, Petterson, so he's probably feeling some tire wear. Both these guys probably feel some tire wear now, as we're coming in just to 2 laps to go. So if Dougie's going to make a move, he better make a move now. And I think, here we go. I think he just heard me dive bomb down the inside, but Petterson, he's going to try to get it back on the outside, but no, a little bit of a bump draft there from Petterson, but Dougie Anderson takes it in 8th. And so the Afro himself manages to pass Petterson. That was a fantastic move by the Scotsman. I wonder if Petterson's like, I wonder what I could have done differently there. But that's the learning curve of these things. As we take a look now, as that battle looks like it's finally finishing up, Campagnari. Don't think he'll be getting any points today unless the EQU machine ahead of him, if Chester Jackson makes a mistake. But I don't think there's enough of a gap to get the slipstream here. But wow. So far, I think this track has actually been, as you said, not well known for its four-wheel batters. MotoGP is mostly used for, but I think we've had some pretty good racing today here at Assen. So I am very impressed that these guys could take these cars and actually do what they have been able to do. And of course, Dougie's overtake right there and Christopher shows that they can get it done around this track.
A lot of people, when they announced a Dutch Grand Prix was coming back, a lot of people considered Assen to be in much better shape and much more of a better sense, decision to go to than just remodeling Zandvoort. So we can see Callum Spencer has actually caught Danny Diaz. What? I really didn't expect that to happen. On the last lap, Callum can take the podium away from ART here. Incredible pace from the Welshman. And by the way, he's the only guy who seems to be managing his tyres right now. The reason he's been able to catch up is he's being able to keep the tyres alive. Great drive from the Welshman. But yeah, a lot of people thought Assen would have been a better decision than Zandvoort. It would have been a better financial decision, but obviously Zandvoort does have the history of hosting Grand Prix in the past, and that's what really won it for them. But I've seen a lot of people say if Zandvoort does fail, then I think Assen is a good place to fall back on, because we've seen firsthand now just what the racing's like. It's been tactical in areas, but it hasn't been impossible to overtake. But obviously we're coming on to the final lap. We'll be getting ready for Kevin Jacobs any moment now. Another dominant victory from the NORL American driver here. He takes the checkered flag, finishes in first place. Danny Diaz looks like he'll just hold on to keep third. Obviously, Evan Imre comes home in second. Does McLeod Evans hold on to fifth? He does. Great result for Northern Lights Racing with a 5-6 finish. Ross McFarlane not able to interrupt the Northern Lights party. Anderson looks like he'll come home, secure the double points for ART, and then it was the battle for the final few remaining. But it is Kevin Jacobs who takes another victory in the ISR AIC, and that will help him. It will help NORL, as Valerio Campagnari did manage to get past Chester Jackson at the end of the race and secure a double points finish for our championship leaders. Well, the new championship leaders. There's no points scored for Iron Brew here today. They'll take the lead at the championship. Iron Brew will have to settle for falling down a bit. Great results, obviously, all around. Double points finish is heartwarming for ART because, obviously, like you say, they've not had a point all season, and Assen favours them brilliantly. Chester Jackson does just fall out of there, and then you can see the rest of the grid lining up on there, but the Iron Brew boys sacrificing the championship lead, Zach.
Yeah, but of course not fault of Gareth Lennon. We saw what happened at the start with Zach Swader pretty much just came in like a wrecking ball, as you would say, into the back end of Gareth Lennon and cost him and himself the race. And so a very tough break for Gareth Lennon here. Of course, not his fault. So, but yeah, Kevin Jacobs, third win of the season. He is the person to actually look out for as we take a look at the driver standings here. Him and Evan Imre, first and second in the race, and they are first and second in the point standings by 22 points. And Colin Spencer, Toby, with that finish that he gained a lot of ground almost on Danny Diaz. He comes up and he is now our third place driver here, just outside with 39 points. But as you can tell, with the finishes and the no point score for Iron Brew, Colin drops down to fourth in driver standings, and that lap incident drops Zach down to fifth and Gareth Lennon sixth. So those two guys having their little, but look at that, Toby, they're 1 point difference so between each other. So that's very interesting there. But there it is right there. NORL takes the championship lead for the team standings with Force Fizzy behind them. So the two drivers that have been dominating this season so far, Kevin Jacobs and Evan Imre, they're now leading their teams into the point standings. But Iron Brew can be able to gain back their momentum that they've had in consistency. They could easily jump back because they're not that far behind. But as you can see with everything going on, it could be a wild season. But right now, Toby, it is the Kevin Jacobs and Evan Imre battle. But we have Spa next. You think these guys are going to go at it between each other again, or do you think somebody else could come into the mix and kind of ruin their fun?
We've seen a lot of interesting things. Obviously, the main race results this season have come down to qualifying. When Kevin gets pole, he wins, no question about it. But when he doesn't get pole, he struggles. We've seen it was, I believe it was Canada, he didn't get pole, he struggled in traffic, and he didn't score any points. So I think it's all down to the Saturday to a certain extent. Obviously, we saw some guys getting the laps ruined and things coming into this race. So who knows? I think it's hard to say without seeing qualifying. Obviously, Spa's a much bigger track, so traffic shouldn't be that much of an issue. Either way, I'm very, very much looking forward to the second half of the season and watching these guys go head to head. Kevin Jacobs walks away with another dominant victory, puts NORL in the top of the standings. They'll be grinning from ear to ear. I'm sure they will. Valeria will be watching this with all smiles and intent. But that has been round number 5 of the ISR AIC. We are back, and so is Kevin Jacobs. Until Belgium, we'll see you then. Good night, everybody.